All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you walk into work tomorrow, and out of nowhere, you get a massive 50% raise. Obviously, you're thrilled, right? So your salary goes up, and naturally, your lifestyle goes up right along with it. Your expenses creep up. And yet somehow, when you check your bank account at the end of the month, you still feel completely broke. So, that brings us to the big question we're tackling in today's explainer. How on earth can someone earn more money every single year and yet become no richer? It's a super common trap, especially for those of us in our 20s and 30s. We're hustling, we're climbing the career ladder, but we constantly feel financially stuck. To figure out why this happens, we need to take a hard look at the gap between what we earn and how we actually behave. Let's walk through a totally hypothetical but probably very familiar career journey. Meet our young professional. They've just landed their first real gig out of school, earning a starting salary of $40,000. Now at this point, money is definitely tight, but, they make it work. They're in a basic apartment, driving an older car, cooking pretty much every meal at home. A couple of years go by. They put in the hours, snag a promotion, or maybe jump to a new company. Boom. Now their income bumps up to $60,000. They're finally starting to feel a little successful, right? They've got some actual breathing room in their budget, and that constant nagging stress of just scraping by, it really starts to fade. Fast forward a little more, and wow, the salary hits $80,000. Now, keep in mind, back when they were making 40 grand, 80,000 felt like an absurdly huge number. It literally felt like the magic number that would guarantee total financial freedom and zero stress. But here's where things get really sneaky. Expenses just naturally rise to meet this new income through what we call lifestyle creep. All of a sudden, they upgrade to a nicer apartment, they finance the newest phone, they're hitting up nice restaurants way more often, racking up extra streaming subscriptions, taking pricier trips, and suddenly they've got a much higher car payment. So even though they literally doubled their original income, the actual gap between what they earn and what they spend is surprisingly tiny. They're making way more, but they aren't actually keeping it. And this whole situation brilliantly captures a concept coined by researchers Brickman and Campbell called the hedonic treadmill. Basically, as you make more cash, your spending and your expectations shoot up right alongside it. So you end up sprinting faster and faster on this treadmill just to maintain your exact same baseline of happiness. No matter how much progress you see in your paycheck, your material desires just completely outpace it, leaving you right back where you started financially. To really grasp this trap, check out this incredible quote from the historian Yuval Noah Harari. He says, "One of history's few iron laws is that luxuries tend to become necessities and to spawn new obligations." Think about that. Lifestyle creep is basically an arms race against yourself. Every little upgrade makes your old life feel kind of shabby. That fancy premium coffee you used to treat yourself to on Fridays? Yeah, that's now a daily requirement you just can't live without. To figure out why our brains do this, we need to dive into some psychology. Specifically, the fascinating behavioral economics found in Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking, Fast and Slow. Kahneman shows us that this whole lifestyle creep thing isn't just you being bad at budgeting, it's actually a deeply wired psychological reflex. He explains this using the principle of loss aversion. Basically, loss aversion is a psychological reality that the pain of losing something hits us way harder than the pleasure of gaining it. So how does this wreck your finances? Well, once we anchor ourselves to a cushier lifestyle, scaling back feels like a massive, painful loss. But scaling up, that just feels like our natural right. Once you get used to having heated seats in your car, downgrading to a car without them feels like a literal punishment that you will do absolutely anything to avoid. This ties in perfectly with the ideas T. Harv Eker talks about in his book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which dives deep into the inner game of wealth. Eker argues that we all run on a sort of internal financial blueprint. He points out that deep-seated fear, not necessarily a lack of money, is usually what's driving our spending habits and keeping us stuck. Look, when you're broke, you're terrified of not having enough. But when you finally start making real money, that fear just morphs into, oh no, what if I lose what I've built? Until you deal with that underlying anxiety, a higher salary is never going to fix your financial stress. Author Brianna Wiest brings another really crucial perspective to this in her book, The Mountain is You. She explores the whole mechanism of self-sabotage. Wiest points out that if we subconsciously associate having wealth with something negative, like maybe you grew up hearing that rich people are greedy or bad, we will actively, though unconsciously, resist financial stability. If your brain is wired to feel safe only when you're just scraping by, having a fat savings account can actually feel super uncomfortable. So what do? You subconsciously overspend just to get back to that familiar, stressful baseline. Section 1. Income is not wealth. And that brings us to a massive light bulb moment from Morgan Housel's brilliant book, The Psychology of Money. Housel hits us with this truth. Wealth is actually what you don't see. It's the luxury car not purchased, the flashy watch not bought, the first-class upgrade declined. Income is just what hits your bank account. Wealth is what you actually keep. Let's look at a quick comparison to really cement this. Over here on the left, we've got person A. High income, sure, but sky-high expenses and practically zero savings. Now on the right, person B. A moderate income, strictly moderate expenses, and totally consistent savings. Now obviously, these are simplified hypotheticals. They don't account for taxes, debt, or market returns, but the fundamental truth is exactly the same. Person B is building real wealth, while person A is just exhausted from running on a golden treadmill. Financial flexibility comes from the gap between your income and your expenses, absolutely not from the gross income itself. To conceptually pull these ideas apart even more, let's look at this fantastic quote from Naval Ravikant. He says, "Money is how we transfer wealth. It is the ability to have credits and debits of other people's time." When you look at it that way, money is really just a social credit system. Wealth, on the other hand, is actual freedom. It's having assets that earn for you while you're fast asleep, totally freeing you from the trap of constantly trading your own limited time for those credits. So how exactly do we build that real wealth? Well, let's break down T. Harv Ekker's 4 factors of net worth. Number 1 is income, and that means both your working income and your passive income. Number 2 is savings. Number 3 is investments. And number 4 is simplification. Pay close attention here, because your salary from your 9 to 5, that's literally just step 1. It's just the top of the funnel meant to feed the rest of the system. I really want to zoom in on Ekker's 4th factor, simplification. Honestly, this is the total unsung hero of growing your net worth. Consciously deciding to decrease your cost of living is the absolute most direct way to free up cash for investing. It takes some serious emotional discipline, no doubt, but choosing a lifestyle where you simply require less money to be happy, that creates a massive, high-speed shortcut to financial freedom. And this leads us perfectly into a more mathematical framework for locking down sustainable financial security, which Scott Galloway lays out in his book, The Algebra of Wealth. Galloway cuts through all the Wall Street jargon and hands us this incredibly simple equation to live by. Here's Galloway's formula. Passive income greater than your burn rate equals economic security. It is literally that straightforward. You achieve true economic security the moment the money being spit out by your assets completely covers your chosen lifestyle costs, or what he calls your burn rate. Let's be super clear about what goes into that math. Passive income is quite literally the money your money makes for you. We're talking interest, property appreciation, stock dividends, rental income. It is entirely separate from the paycheck you get for clocking into a job. Building passive income has to be the ultimate goal because it's the only vehicle that eventually replaces your need to trade your precious, limited time for labor. Section 2. Defining your enough. But to make all this math actually work in the real world, we have to face a massive psychological hurdle, defining your personal satiation point. The writer Paul Millard often points out that earning $100,000 or honestly any big shiny number can still leave you feeling completely trapped if you're just endlessly chasing the next gold star without ever drawing a finish line. If your burn rate always inflates to match your new salary, you are never going to have enough. Figuring out that satiation point is an inside job. In the book A Happy Pocket Full of Money, David Cameron Gikandi offers a really fascinating philosophical take on what he calls wealth consciousness. Now keep in mind, this is strictly a matter of self-development and mindset, not hard financial science. But Gikandi argues that true abundance really stems from inner self-mastery. It's a powerful reminder that if you aren't actually content on the inside, there isn't a bank balance big enough to make you feel secure. So to tie this whole thing together, getting richer isn't actually about making your income number bigger and bigger just so you can buy more stuff. It is entirely about widening the gap between what you earn and what you actually need. That gap is where true wealth lives. Because wealth isn't just the ability to go buy luxury goods. Wealth is resilience. It's having the financial padding to survive a disaster. And it's having the absolute ultimate luxury in human life, choice. I want to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with a pretty provocative question to chew on. If your income somehow magically doubled tomorrow, what is the exact first thing you would change? Would you immediately go inflate your lifestyle to match that shiny new number? Or would you use that cash to widen the gap and finally buy your financial freedom? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.